first flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Oh, hello. Welcome to the Health or High Water podcast. As always, Brett Hutari here with the awesome and eccentric Mr. Trip Parks. Coming to you at Ascend Performance Training on a beautiful Tuesday, Wednesday, what day is
I
it?
think today's Tuesday. I thought it was Monday all morning.
On a beautiful Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. It looks like the leaves have not started to change colors quite yet, but we do see fall happening.
It's happening in the mountains, man. It's looking beautiful. They said it's going to be the most colorful season in the past, 10 years.
Really?
That's what they said on the radio. I'm not sure how true it is.
I mean, if it was on the radio, it's got to be true. There's no way it's on. Hope you guys are having an amazing day out there. I want to say thank you to the people who have been listening religiously.
We got some new states, too. Montana joined the fold. Idaho joined the fold. Oregon. What else? Oklahoma. Got the OK State. Thank you guys so much.
Ooh, yes, and we got some new listeners here. If you're joining us for the first time, Trip and I are both owners of Ascend Performance Training. What we want to do is change the fitness industry. There's a lot of money that has corrupted fitness and fitness advice and supplementation and everything. So we wanted to dispel all those myths and provide the most accurate, up-to-date fitness information so that you can not only lose weight, but improve your mental health. And did I leave anything out there, Trip?
No, not really, man. We're just trying to use practical ways to get people healthy with, biomechanical assessments, genetics, blood work, and I think we're going to talk about blood work today.
We are talking about a lot. So today's episode, we're going to talk about three things, but in specific, number one is going to be blood work. I want to dive right into it. So we were talking LDLs and HDLs. I'm sure if you've been to the doctor, you've got your blood work, you've heard of what it is. High-density lipoprotein, low-density lipoprotein. I got a question for you, Mr. Tripp, because there was a question that came up in one of your recent sessions, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Yeah. So a low-density lipoprotein, or LDL, it's not technically a fat itself, but it's a type of lipoprotein that carries cholesterol and other lipids. Again, lipids are just fats through the bloodstream. It's often referred to as the bad cholesterol, because high levels of LDL in the blood can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, what were you explaining? You were explaining to me a way to simplify it, right?
Right. Well, here's the thing. I know we talked a little bit about this right before the podcast, but the thing is, all of us are being bombarded by an absurd amount of information, whether that's from friends, family, websites, or social media. And it gets a little confusing what to eat, what not to eat. I'm sure all of us have gone through that, through listeners out there. But the thing is you want to simplify this. And the way I teach it is I know that HDLs and LDLs are not fats, but they are directly correlated to fat use. Right, so if I'm pounding down some saturated fat, I'm going to have high LDLs in my blood because that's what we're measuring. Right, if I have good HDLs, then I have good monosaturated fats, right, or whatnot. So the way I explain it is we learn about HDLs and LDLs when we're talking about fats. HDLs are good fats like avocado oil, coconut oils, those kind of things. And you're talking about saturated fats or LDLs. You're looking at like vegetable oil, canola oil, Cisco, like those kind of overly processed oils. So I try to make it simple, like when I'm reading blood work for myself, as well as trying to explain this to people that there's A and B. We're not looking at a Cheesecake Factory menu, right? We're looking at, we want to focus on those. So that's how I teach it.
Yeah, no, and I like that. I thought it was an interesting way to frame it, and you're totally right too. It's simplifying it. HDLs and LDLs, and I appreciate it, and I know clients appreciate it too, because we're not all scientists, right? You don't need to dig into, but just to understand does help to understand that. Let's transition to HDLs. So, HDLs are the quote, air quote, good cholesterol. High density lipoproteins. Essentially, they're like I said, they're often referred to as the good cholesterol. And there's a lot that the HDLs do. They're primarily responsible for transporting cholesterol from the body's tissues and arteries back to the liver, where it can then be processed and then it's eliminated. The process is known as reverse cholesterol transport. How can we get HDL? What's the
So this is what has come from good fats, right? So you're looking at like seed oils, like almond, avocado oils, coconut oils. Those are really high on the GI. What is the word? GI. I'm having a brain fart right here, but it's part of
Gastrointestinal index.
Yeah, gastrointestinal index. It's really high up on there, and that's what I try to teach is like what's the most absorbable, what's the body need the most, and get rid of things that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's why I try to explain like HDLs and LDLs to make it really simple. It's like these are the ones we want, these are the ones we want to avoid, and to put an asterisk on there too is remember like too much of a good thing is still it can be a bad thing, right? If we're just like drinking straight up avocado oil, it's probably not good. You can have too much HDL also.
Mm-hmm. You can have too much HDL.
You can have too much of anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Too much of anything. Also, regular exercise improves HDL levels.
It can, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It can. A lot of it's going to come from your diet, though.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that when you're working on it does help is it helps improve your working out helps improve your cardiovascular system. Therefore, your blood can pump things the right places better.
Mm-hmm.
It's right.
Mm-hmm.
But it really that kind of stuff boils down to the diet.
Yeah, and like you said, olive oil, avocado oil, fatty fish, those good omegas, salmon.
Yep.
Helping to increase, also your soluble fiber, oats, beans, fruits, vegetables, all those things, like you're saying. Your omega-3 fatty acids is super important.
And why they're so important too is like your myelin sheath in your brain are lined with fat. And fat is highly conductible for electricity. So if you don't have the right fats in your system, then you're probably feeling brain fog, fatigue, a ton of things.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what myelin sheath are, they're a protective insulating cover. It surrounds and electrically insulates. They're called axons. They're these long thread-like projections of nerve cells, or neurons, essentially, I guess. This insulating function is crucial. It's crucial for the efficient transmission of electrical signals. It's essentially what helps the electrical signals, and the impulses along the line of what's called the axon. So the myelin is primarily composed of lipids or fats and some proteins in a form of fatty white substance that gives the nervous tissue a whitish appearance. So it's important. Fats are important. Is that, can we?
Oh, 100%.
Can we agree upon that?
And I want to say something too. Is fats should stop being demonized, right? You need a balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, right? And that's why blood work is so important. And as a whole, is understanding what's happening in the body right now. Like genetics are great, right? But they're only so useful without things like blood work. Like we'll give you an example from back in previous episodes is we had someone with a fat burning variant missing. So guess how important to keep LDLs out of her system is? It's huge, right? It means it's more important because we got her blood work back and said that she had high LDLs, high HDLs, all over the place, right? So getting this qualitative information from blood work right off the bat gives us a much better path to understand how to program for everybody.
Yeah, so I'm gonna repeat that for those that missed that. A fat burning gene that was completely missing. We're made up of obviously DNA and genes and alleles, and it's pretty common, correct me if I'm wrong, Trip, it's now that we've seen it more than once, of this particular allele that was not present.
I've seen it 4 times now.
4 times. So it's pretty common that if you're out there and you've been exercising and Sally's been losing weight and you haven't, you're doing the same program, not only are there epigenetic factors, but there's also genetic factors. That It doesn't mean that you're doomed, right? It just means that you have to change the way you're exercising.
You might have a harder time than somebody else. You know what I mean? And I think it's time for us to take that pill. It's like, I'm going to have a different fitness journey than somebody else, just like life. And I think that we want to follow, like with the people that we follow on Instagram, like, oh, I want to be just like this person. I want to do this. You follow along their lines and it doesn't work out for you. It's because you're different. And that's awesome. We're all beautifully unique. That's what gives us the human experience so awesome. But at the same time, like when we put blinders on and think that we're just like everybody else, we're going to fall short.
Yeah.
So using these things like blood tests are huge. Like understanding like, oh man, I'm taking too much vitamin D, or my blood lipids are out of whack. What can I do for that? What are HDLs? What are LDLs? What do they mean? And that's why we put them in our programming. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is important information.
Totally, yeah. So let's dive into that then. This episode is about blood count, about blood panels. We do use blood panels a lot. You use them. You're looking at them. You're analyzing them. You're trying to figure out, are these levels correctly? So just as a overview, when you get the blood panel back, white blood cell count, we're going to get the red blood cell count, hemoglobin, the MCV, the mean corpuscular volume, which measures the average volume and size of individual red blood cell counts. Fancy stuff here. Red blood cell distribution width, platelet counts, platelet distribution. There's a lot of other stuff going on here, right? What's the first thing? Give me a synopsis when you look at this. What's your thoughts on getting these blood panels back? What are you seeing?
So there's three aspects where I'm looking heavily at the first things in blood work, and the hemoglobin, the white blood cell count, the red cell, that's all important. But what I'm really looking at is things like A1C. Are you about to be pre-diabetic? Or are you having issues with kidney function with that? Next thing is blood lipids. Like, how's your HDL? How's your LDL? How's that looking out, right? What's your fats like? So I look at those things first, and then the third thing I look at is vitamins and minerals. It's like if you're missing, vitamin C, you have a chance to get, scurvy or whatever? Scurvy.
People still get scurvy?
I'm sure they do.
Really?
I don't know. We'll have to ask some pirates. What's a pirate?
A1C, for those who don't know, A1C, also known as hemoglobin A1C or glycated hemoglobin. It's a measure of long-term blood glucose or sugar control and are used primarily to monitor and manage diabetes. So
looking out for that, looking out for vitamins and minerals, like, hey, it's the person, again, I'm going to give you an example for someone we had in here too, is they were taking vitamin D. Their genetic test came back that they had a low propensity to digest vitamin D. Mm-hmm. And their blood work came back that they had low vitamin D or lower. So, and the caveat to that was too, they had a high propensity for sunspots and melanoma. So how do we get the vitamin D for her? It's like, well, through what you're saying, like, fatty fish, coconut oils, avocado oils. They have to get it through that. And again, this is a picture we're building as we're learning this information, getting the blood work in, getting the genetic test in, doing the biomechanical assessment, truly coming up with something individualized because, as we said at the beginning of this conversation, everybody's different. Mm-hmm. Your blood work's going to be different than Sally. Your genetics are going to be different than your mom. Like we had our first mother and daughter come in, and they had different genetics. It was very interesting to see what she got from mom, what she got from dad. Mm-hmm. But when I'm looking at these blood tests, those are the main things I'm looking at. Your vitamins, your minerals, your A1C, your blood lipids. Those are the for me are really important about your health journey. Mm-hmm. Sorry that was so long-winded.
No, don't be sorry at all. This is kind of the point of the podcast. Let's just quick on the A1C. The A1C level of 6.5% or higher is typically considered diagnostic of diabetes. You don't want to get there.
No.
Diabetes is not something. It's genetic too, right?
There's type 1 and type 2.
That is genetic?
Type 1 is genetic, I believe, and type 2 comes upon from sugar abuse, I think. Mm-hmm. But you might have to double check that for me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people ask, like, how often do we get blood work, right? Mm-hmm. I recommend, every 6 months. Mm-hmm. I know that seems like a lot, but, a lot can happen in a few months, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're supposed to get it monitored more than just once in your life, right? Getting your blood work is just a smart thing.
Minimal once a year. Minimal
once a year. I like that.
And I do think some people avoid getting blood work done because they're scared of the results. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I know I don't have a good diet, but if I don't get my blood work done, then I won't know about it, then I don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. And we should really change that perspective to the opposite. It's like, well, I want to solve this problem before it gets bad. And the same reason we're doing genetic testing, too. It's like, hey, like, you had a high risk for prostate cancer. Let's, get you to see someone about that just in case. Mm-hmm. If you don't know, you can't fix it.
Yeah, so you got the A1C, your vitamins, minerals, a lot on liver function. We can also take a look at liver function. There's a lot of great stuff there that we can see. Kidney function, thyroid function, electrolyte levels, testing for electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and calcium. can help us assess your body's fluid balance and kidney function. Coagulation panels or clotting tests can be done. Also, inflammatory markers, tests for markers like C-reactive proteins.
I want to talk about that one real quick.
Yeah, so let's touch on that because we kind of got a discussion with Dr. Randy Snook when you had that great podcast. By the way, for the listeners, if you have not listened to the last podcast, I was in a session, so it's with Tripp and Dr. Randy Snook of Hematech. It was fantastic, and one of the things that came up was C-reactive protein. Why don't you jump in?
So C-reactive protein is an inflammatory marker for genetics, right? And why that was important for us back in the day was if you got mauled by a bear and you got a huge gash on your stomach, you want your body to inflame.
Yes.
You want your body to close that wound up and make sure that you live to fight another day.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is when we have a high predisposition for C-reactive protein and it's high in blood work, is our body's in a stressed mode, right? We're not fighting bears anymore, but we are getting stuck in traffic. We're getting anxious, and our body's flipping into survival mode, and we're getting inflamed, right? Our mentality can flip the way our body is acting biochemically, right? So if we have a high predisposition for C-reactive protein and we got high on the blood work, it's like this person's probably stressed out. They're in fight mode all the time.
Yeah.
Fight or flight mode all the time.
Yeah, what he's saying too. So it's produced by the liver. It's released into the bloodstream. It's in response to inflammatory cytokines, such as like interleukin-6. Its primary function is to bind to certain components of bacteria and dead or dying cells to help activate the immune system and clear the pathogens. Incredibly important.
Oh,
Stress levels are now. Can we agree? Stress levels are elevated.
Well, then if that's high, it's like, let's look at the cortisol, right? Which is another indicator of the body being in a fight situation. It can't calm down. Your adrenal glands are pushed to the limit, and you don't. And again, you wouldn't know any of this without blood work.
Yeah. There's a test, the HS. I'm saying this right. The HSCRP test. It's more sensitive and can detect lower levels of CRP, C-reactive protein. So it's useful addressing chronic low-grade inflammation, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, all in all, blood work, incredibly important. Get it done.
Yep.
Get it done regularly. Use it to your advantage. Anything else you want to add on blood work?
I do want to say that technologically it's become more advanced in the past like few decades of being able to extract what we need to from the blood work and being able to use it. The science is not perfect, and if someone's going to argue with that, I'm not going to dispute that. But the science is well enough, just like genetics, that we can use it to help people get healthier quicker and more effectively. And this is something too. Like I hope everyone out listening is they at least get a little bit curious about looking up, especially if they've got blood work laying around. Blood work is not hard to read. I taught you how to read it pretty quick. It's pretty self-explanatory. Most of the things have markers on there and levels, which anyone can really read. But I really want you guys to be curious about what goes along with blood work. Look up A1C, look up lipids, look up all this kind of stuff to make sure that when you're going into the office and you're getting this done, that you know what you're getting out of it too.
Let's segue slightly. I mentioned the term cytokines, and I want to talk quickly on peptides, just a short little segue. So cytokines are small proteins or peptides that play a crucial role in cell signaling and communication with the immune system and other tissues in the body. They serve as the messenger between cells. They help to regulate and coordinate various immune responses, inflammatory responses, and other physiological functions. There's a lot of chronic inflammatory syndromes out there.
Oh yeah, a ton of it.
Right.
And that's coming from the food we eat, the stresses that are going on that we can't let go. I mean, there's tons of reasons for it, and they're all solvable. Speaking on peptides, though, man, peptides are one of the most incredible inventions ever made. It's like you can help with injury recovery, you can help with hormone balance, and they're all extremely safe because they're all based off branched chain amino acids, or BCAAs.
People are taking them now. You can go take peptides at your local.
I when I have the money for it, I take something called ibutermin, which is technically not a protein or a peptide, but acts as a peptide. It helps me with my gut health. It helps me with putting on the right weight. I've had stomach issues for a long time, and it's been one of the safest things I've ever taken to help it. Seen the most benefits out of it. I've taken several different peptides like BCP 157, which is called the Wolverine peptide. Helps you heal incredibly quick. If you guys are having chronic issues and you guys can't get stem cells, you can't go out and definitely try BPC 157. It's a miracle drug.
Just briefly touching, it's interesting, just briefly touching some of the chronic inflammatory syndromes that we were discussing. RA, rheumatoid arthritis, IBS or IBD, inflammatory bowel disease or inflammatory bowel syndrome. What's the difference, by the way? Because I don't know the difference between... Is it the same thing, inflammatory bowel disease and inflammatory bowel syndrome?
It's all the same thing.
Okay.
It's basically what it is. It's just a generic term for chronic stomach illness.
Like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis.
Right. So they gave me that. They gave me IBS as a term because I had my appendix out. I had ulcerative colitis. I had gluten intolerance, dairy intolerance. I had tons of different things, and even if I did eliminate some of those things, I still had it because, in my opinion, your gut and your brain are directly tied together. You're not feeding yourself right, your brain's not working right, you stress yourself out, your stomach hurts. So they just kind of give you a generic term for that because a lot of us are going through this.
Yeah, it's so common. Just a few more. Psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis. It goes on and on, right?
Yeah, it goes. It can help. It can affect your skin. It can affect everything.
So these cytokines, tying that glue in, so these cytokines are responsible regulating those immune systems and what's called a cytokine storm. So these cytokines, for some reason, can start attacking your own body tissue, and that's where we get the cytokine storm. It can attack and inflame your brain, which is neuro, or it can attack and inflame your stomach. There's a lot of this stuff we can get into the deep waters here on why this is important to address, to figure out what's going on with your body, make sure we're ahead of the game before it starts happening.
Well, yeah, this is all what we call preventative health measures, right? You know what I mean? How can we prevent something from happening? It's like, all right, well, you got a high A1C. What are we going to do about it? Right? Well, we're going to make sure that you're not eating saturated fats. We're going to make sure that you're having good complex carbohydrates. We're going to make sure that your blood work looks good for your vitamins and minerals. And stuff that is down, we're going to make sure that we're upping it. Right? If you have low zinc, let's up the zinc, making sure your immune system's going up. Hey, you have low vitamin A. It's like, well, if we increase it, maybe your eyesight will work a little better. Because I'm pretty sure vitamin A has a direct correlation with depth perception. That's why all you guys listening out there, your mama's probably told you to eat carrots for your eyesight.
Is that true? I don't even know if it is. It probably is. We could probably look that one up. Vitamin D for sure. Huge, relatively common. Sunlight. It can be found in the blood test. Easy. Iron levels. You don't want to be anemic. There's iron supplements out there that we can recommend. Vitamin B12. B12 is huge. It can be prescribed. A lot of people are doing B12 these days, like injections and stuff like that.
Well, and with each one of these vitamins and minerals, if you are deficient in one, like let's say like vitamin A, you can have xerophthalmia, which causes dry eyes, corneal ulcers, in extreme cases blindness.
Sure. Yeah.
Right, and a lot of our issues. We talked a little bit about this with Dr. Doringer, him being kind of a detective, right, figuring things out. It's like, well, you got lupus. Well, why'd you get in the first place? Getting this blood work done. Understanding how important these vitamins and minerals are. I mean, like we joke about scurvy now, but it was rampant back in the day.
Totally.
But we know that. Oh well, they just need to have an orange. It's like, this is what we're trying to get to you guys out there, like how important this is and how those perception has changed of it even the past few hundred years. You know what I mean? And how useful it is. And yes, I just looked it up. Vitamin A is particularly known for its role in night vision.
Night vision.
I can see in the dark.
Particularly in low light conditions. I can see in the dark because I have a lot of vitamin A.
There you go.
B12 plays a role in DNA synthesis and cell division. A lot of stuff going on with blood work. It's crazy. How are we doing on time? What are we?
I think we're kind of towards the end here.
We're towards the end of our blood work discussion. What else about blood work? Anything else we want to talk about? we've talked about how it is integrated in the program, how we use it. What else are we missing on blood work?
I think the one thing that if we can get anything to you guys is go out and get your blood work done and understand the problem that you may be facing. If your blood work comes back great, fine, put it up on the fridge, A+. But I'm going to guarantee probably 89% of all of us have some sort of deficiency somewhere. And without you knowing it, it could be affecting your health. So go out and get your fucking blood work done.
Get your blood work done. You can get it read by a medical doctor, nurse practitioner, PA, physician assistant, CLS, MLT, medical laboratory technologist, registered dietitian, RDs, nutritionist, pharmacist, NDs, whoever. But have a professional take a look at your blood work and, use it to start improving your health. Final words.
So I'm going to transition this a little bit into our plugs for today. If you guys are interested in getting your blood work done through us, make sure you guys reach out to us at ascendperformancetraining.com, or you can reach out to us on social media at Ascend Performance Training on Facebook, Instagram, whatnot. We will get you set up with blood work. If you guys have not checked out Brett's blogs on ascendperformancetraining.com/blogs, you are losing out on life.
What are you doing if you're not even reading them? What are you doing?
I don't know. Make sure you guys are going and read those things. They're absolutely awesome. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and sharing to all of our podcasts if you guys can. Every little bit helps. Thank you guys for the 5-star reviews on Spotify already. That's awesome. If you guys can keep that up, that'll help us out a lot. We have some amazing podcast guests coming on in the next few weeks. Excited to tell you guys a little bit more on Thursday for our episode. Make sure you guys are going to Colorado Valley Labs at the bottom part of Ascend Performance Training. Check out all of our awesome supplements that are out there as well. We've got a book out. It's on Kindle. It's on Amazon. It's called Health Profiling. Make sure you guys go check it out. There will be a new version of the book coming out in about a month that'll be a little less aggressive. So if you guys like a little bit of humor and a little bit of swear words in a book, go check out the first version.
It was tasteful, though.
It was supposed to scare people a little bit and shock them a little bit, but
I
think it was
tasteful.
a little too much with the biting the pillow going in dry for that one part.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was
a little aggressive.
Yeah, this book is not for the faint of heart.
And not for children. Definitely not for children. What else we got going on here? We got some amazing deals going on at Ascend Performance Training, whether you're online training or whether you come into our studio in Denver, which is at 1472 Jersey Street. We will get you set up with a program based off of you, for you. No more guesswork. But I think that's about it, man. Did I miss anything?
I think you got it all. I think you crushed it. Thanks again for joining us, you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Kick some butt. Make a difference out there. And as always, let us know if you need anything. Send us a message. Take care. Have a great day. Peace.